Dressed in attire that had clearly seen better decades, she sat in stony silence in seat 12A as the cabin's elite passengers spent nearly 3 hours making her the silent target of their ridicule. But then, in a terrifying instant, their state-of-the-art aircraft lost all engine power, beginning a horrifying plummet toward the earth. And that was the moment the woman they had scorned rose to her feet and announced her military call sign, a single word that would change everything. The world as they knew it shifted in a flash. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. Now back to our story. Leah Vance stood in the priority boarding line at Chicago O'Hare, her boarding pass clutched tight in hands that bore the intricate map of a life lived through hard work, not inheritance. The paper felt flimsy, almost fragile, softened by the nervous energy of her grip. To anyone who bothered to look, she was just another weary traveler, another anonymous face eager to get on flight NA447, a direct shot to Los Angeles. She wore faded blue jeans, the kind that are comfortable because they've molded to you over years, with a subtle fray at the right ankle. Her jacket was a simple olive drab canvas, its color muted from 100 washes. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe, practical knot held by a plain black band. The only luggage she carried was a scuffed, faded duffel bag that looked like it had been pulled from the dusty shelf of an army surplus store. No one gave the quiet woman a second glance. Why would they? Behind her, a pair of tech executives in razor-sharp suits brayed about their latest round of funding. Ahead, a young actress scrolled through her phone, her laughter bright and artificial as she talked to her agent. The gate agent, a fresh-faced kid named Kevin who looked barely out of his teens, called for her boarding group. Leah stepped forward. "Seat 12A business class," Kevin announced, then did a double-take, his eyes flickering from the ticket to Leah's worn-out boots and back again. A small frown creased his brow. "Ma'am," he said, lowering his voice slightly, "are you sure this is the right flight for you?" "Positive," Leah replied, her voice quiet but firm. "That's my seat." Kevin shrugged, a flicker of disbelief still in his eyes, and waved her through. "All right then, enjoy your flight." As Leah walked down the enclosed space of the jet bridge, she could feel the stairs like physical pressure on her back. A man in a suit that probably cost more than her car gave her a long, disdainful look from head to toe. A woman dripping in gold jewelry whispered something to her husband, her manicured hand gesturing dismissively toward Leah's old duffel. The aisle of the business-class cabin felt narrow, suffocating. "Excuse me," Leah said politely to a large man blocking her way, a man whose gleaming gold watch was likely worth more than her entire life's savings. "The economy cabin is that way," he grunted, without even turning to look at her. "I'm in 12A, Leah stated, holding up the pass so he couldn't ignore it. The man, whose briefcase was monogrammed with the initials PC for Preston Croft of Croft Financial, finally glanced at her ticket, his expression one of pure astonishment. Business class? Seriously? Must have won a radio contest. He shifted his bulk just enough for her to squeeze by, muttering to his companion, "Standards are really slipping these days." Leah found her window seat and slid her duffel under the seat in front of her. The bag was old, yes, but it wasn't just junk. It was covered in small, meticulously embroidered patches. To the casual observer, they were just decorations. But each one was a silent testament to a story, a mission, a life that would leave these passengers utterly breathless if they ever discovered the truth. Seated next to her was Eleanor Beaumont, a woman who carried herself with the icy confidence of old money. She assessed Leah with a look one might give to a cockroach that had scuttled onto a pristine white tablecloth. "I do hope you're not a nervous flyer," Mrs. Beaumont said, her voice like cracking ice. "I simply cannot abide hysterics when we hit a patch of rough air." Leah managed a thin, polite smile. "I'm perfectly comfortable in the air, thank you." Across the aisle, a surgeon named Dr. Alan Kendrick was holding court with his colleague, his voice booming with self-importance. The real problem with the world today, Gerald, is the erosion of excellence. Meritocracy is dead. Even the airlines are letting the riffraff into their premium cabins. His friend, a lawyer named Gerald Finch, nodded sagely. You're not wrong, Alan. Exclusivity is a lost art. Just look around. Their eyes, like laser pointers, landed squarely on Leah. A flight attendant, Jessica, approached with a tray of pre-departure drinks. Her smile was dazzling for every other passenger, but seemed to short-circuit when she reached Leah. "And for you?" she asked, her tone flat and professional, a stark contrast to the warmth she'd shown Mrs. Beaumont. "A water would be great," Leah said. "Just water?" Jessica pressed, her eyebrows raising in surprise. "We have champagne, fresh squeezed orange juice." "Water is fine." Jessica shrugged, the forced smile returning for a split second before she moved on. As she walked away, Leah heard her whisper to another attendant, "Bet that's all she thinks she can have for free." At 10:20 a.m., flight NA447, an Airbus A350, lifted off from the runway, climbing gracefully into the bright Chicago sky. As they broke through the clouds and leveled off at 38,000 feet, the passengers settled in. Leah gazed out her window at the endless carpet of white clouds below, a sight she had witnessed countless times. Yes, but never from a padded leather seat. Always from a different kind of cockpit, one built for speed and silence, not for serving champagne. The other passengers remained blissfully ignorant that the unassuming woman in 12A had logged more flight hours than every commercial pilot they had ever or would ever fly with, combined. "So," Mrs. Beaumont asked, her voice oozing with condescending curiosity, "what is it you do exactly?" "I used to be in government service," Leah answered, keeping her response deliberately vague. Mrs. Beaumont let out a short, sharp bark of a laugh. "Ah, a bureaucrat. Well, that explains the ensemble." Her gesture towards Leah's simple clothing was anything but subtle. Behind them, Preston Croft was practically shouting into his phone. "I'm flying to L.A. to close a $200 million acquisition," he bellowed, ensuring the entire cabin was aware of his importance. "Some of us are actually creating value in the world." Dr. Kendrick couldn't resist joining the chorus of self-congratulation. "I'm presenting my latest findings on cellular regeneration at a major medical conference. It's going to revolutionize how we treat aging." Gerald Finch puffed out his chest. "And I'm defending a tech startup against a frivolous patent suit, protecting innovation, you see." They all glanced expectantly at Leah, as if waiting for her to be awed into silence or, even better, to offer up some pathetically mundane reason for her journey. When she simply returned to her book, they shared a collective silent judgment, dismissing her as a non-entity. "Some people just lack ambition, I suppose," Mrs. Beaumont sighed theatrically, loud enough for half the cabin to hear. Leah remained quiet, her focus on the paperback she'd pulled from her bag. It was a dense technical manual on next-generation avionics, but she held it angled so no one could see the cover. 2 hours bled into 3. The meal service began. The flight attendants distributed elegant, leather-bound menus. "Today we are offering a choice of pan-seared sea bass with a saffron risotto or a filet mignon with a truffle reduction," Jessica announced with a flourish. "For dessert, we have a molten chocolate lava cake or a deconstructed key lime pie." She handed menus to everyone, but when she got to Leah, her smile tightened. "My apologies. It appears we've run out of menus, but I can tell you the options." "It's fine," Leah said, her expression unreadable. "I'll have whatever's easiest." Mrs. Beaumont leaned over and whispered to the passenger behind her, "It must be so overwhelming when you're not used to having choices." When the meals came, the discrepancy was glaring. Everyone else received their food on fine china with polished silverware and crisp linen napkins. Leah's meal arrived on a plastic tray with plastic cutlery, the same service offered in the economy cabin. "Oh, dear," Dr. Kendrick said with mock concern, gesturing with his fork. "Looks like there's been a mistake with your service." "It's perfectly fine," Leah replied, unwrapping her plastic knife and fork. Preston Croft let out a short, cruel laugh. "Maybe that's the government service option." The insults kept coming, a steady drip of casual cruelty. The other passengers seemed to be in a bizarre competition to see who could deliver the most cutting remark, assuming she was either too simple to understand or too intimidated to respond. "I bet she's never even heard of a Michelin star," Gerald Finch snickered to his neighbor. "Probably thinks the Cheesecake Factory is fine dining," Mrs. Beaumont added, with a malicious grin. Leah ate her meal, her face a mask of neutrality. She'd eaten worse, much worse, in conditions these people couldn't even imagine in their worst nightmares. As the meal service ended, the attacks became more personal. "I wonder how she even scraped together the money for a business-class ticket," Dr. Kendrick mused loudly. "Probably an inheritance," Gerald Finch suggested with a sneer. "Or maybe our tax dollars paid for it," Preston Croft chimed in. "Some kind of government travel voucher for our esteemed civil servants." Mrs. Beaumont delivered the final blow. "Just look at that jacket. It looks like something she found in a lost and found bin, and those boots, honestly, they should be a biohazard." Leah continued to read, but her knuckles had turned white where she gripped the book. She'd faced down enemy fire, endured interrogations that would break lesser men. Yet there was something uniquely grating about the casual, thoughtless cruelty of these people. "Ma'am," Jessica said, returning to collect the trays, "I do hope that was satisfactory. I know it's not the usual standard you're accustomed to." The clever, backhanded insult earned a few snickers from the surrounding seats. Leah finally looked up, her gaze calm and steady, meeting the flight attendant's eyes. "It was fine, thank you." Inwardly, though, Leah was remembering other meals. Freeze-dried rations eaten at 40,000 feet in the cockpit of a stealth bomber over hostile airspace. Cold MREs shoveled down in a dusty bunker between missions. These people didn't have a clue what real hardship was. At 1:35 p.m., somewhere over the vast emptiness of Nevada, everything changed. A voice crackled over the PA system. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We seem to be experiencing some minor technical issues with our navigational displays. Please remain seated while our flight crew works to resolve it." Most passengers barely registered the announcement. Technical glitches happened, no big deal. But Leah's head snapped up from her book. There was something in the captain's voice, a tightly controlled tremor that the others missed. It was the sound of a professional trying very hard not to sound terrified. That was not a minor issue. 10 minutes later, the captain's voice came on again, and this time the strain was impossible to hide. "Folks, we will need to prepare for an emergency landing. We have lost our primary and backup navigation systems, and we are having difficulty maintaining communications with air traffic control." A ripple of genuine fear washed through the cabin. Hope was turning to worry. Mrs. Beaumont's manicured hand clamped down on her armrest. Dr. Kendrick's face went pale. Preston Croft fumbled for his phone, his usual bravado gone, replaced by a sheen of sweat on his forehead. "What does that mean?" Gerald Finch demanded of no one in particular. "Are we going to crash?" A flight attendant tried to calm the rising panic. "Please, everyone, remain calm. Our pilots are the best in the world. We're going to be okay." But Leah saw the truth in the crew's wide eyes and tense jaws. They were not okay. This was bad. She recognized that look. It was the look of people who were rapidly running out of options. 15 minutes later, the situation went from bad to catastrophic. The plane gave a violent lurch, and the lights flickered and died, plunging the cabin into the eerie twilight of the emergency lighting strips. "This is Captain Alvarez," the voice on the intercom was now audibly shaking. I need to be honest with you. We've lost nearly all electronic systems. It appears to be a coordinated cyber attack affecting multiple aircraft systems. We are flying blind." The cabin exploded. It was a symphony of chaos. Panic. "A cyber attack?" Mrs. Beaumont shrieked, her voice shrill with terror. "We're all going to die!" Dr. Kendrick wailed, his scientific detachment completely gone. The flight attendants tried to restore order, but their own fear was palpable. "Please remain calm," Jessica shouted, her voice trembling. But what they didn't realize was that the situation was even worse than they knew. Leah knew. She'd been briefed on these exact scenarios. A multi-system, redundant failure meant this was a sophisticated hostile act, and she knew what came next. Without navigation or power, this massive Airbus was now just a very, very heavy glider, bleeding altitude with every passing second. Eventually, it would run out of sky. Leah unbuckled her seatbelt and stood. "Ma'am, you need to sit down right now," Jessica commanded, rushing towards her. "I need to speak to the pilots," Leah said, her voice an island of calm in the sea of hysteria. "That is absolutely not possible, especially not now." Leah looked Jessica dead in the eye. "My name is Leah Vance. I'm a retired Air Force colonel. I have over 30 years of combat flight experience, and I've trained for this exact scenario. I might be able to help." Jessica just stared at her, dumbfounded. "You're a pilot?" "I was," Leah confirmed. "And right now, I might be the only person on this plane who can find an airport without a single working instrument." Mrs. Beaumont, overhearing this, let out a hysterical, broken laugh. "Her? She's nobody. A government clerk in rags. She's lost her mind." But Jessica saw something in Leah's eyes, a steely confidence and a profound calm that was utterly at odds with her appearance. It was the look of someone who had seen hell and walked out the other side. I'll ask the captain," Jessica stammered, grabbing the internal phone. She spoke in hushed, urgent tones. "Captain, there's a passenger. She says she's a retired Air Force pilot." "Yes, sir." "Leah Vance?" "Yes, sir. A colonel. I'll send her up." Jessica hung up the phone, her face a mixture of awe and terror. The captain said to come up. Now. Leah moved swiftly to the front of the aircraft. In the cockpit, Captain Alvarez and his first officer, a young man named Miller, looked like they'd seen a ghost. The entire cockpit was dark, a graveyard of dead screens. "You're the Air Force pilot?" Captain Alvarez asked, his voice hoarse. "Retired," Leah said. "Give me a sit rep." "It's all gone," Miller said, his voice flat with shock. "Nav, comms, autopilot, even the backups. Some kind of super virus just wiped us clean." Leah's eyes scanned the dead instruments. "Manual controls?" "Still have them," Alvarez replied. "But we're a ghost. No GPS, no radio, no idea where we are. We're just falling in the right direction." Leah nodded, her mind already working. "I can fix that. Do you have paper charts?" "Just the emergency backups," Miller said, pulling a large folio from a side compartment. "Pretty basic." "Basic is all I need," Leah said, spreading a chart across her lap. "I can navigate by dead reckoning. Visual landmarks. It's old school, but it works." Alvarez looked at her, his expression a cocktail of desperation and skepticism. "Ma'am, with all due respect, this isn't a fighter jet. This is an A350 with 300 souls on board." A faint, confident smile touched Leah's lips for the first time. "Captain, I've navigated a B-2 Spirit bomber through the most heavily defended airspace on the planet without making a single electronic whisper. I think I can handle your Airbus." For the next hour, a strange new rhythm took hold in the dark cockpit. Leah, using nothing but the paper chart, a watch, and her encyclopedic knowledge of the terrain below, became the aircraft's brain. She called out headings based on the position of the sun, the curve of a river, the straight line of a highway visible through a break in the clouds. "Based on that river bend and our time since the last landmark, I'd say we're about 250 miles east of Las Vegas," she announced. "If we hold this heading, we should be able to make an approach to Nellis Air Force Base." "But we can't talk to them," Miller protested. "The tower won't know we're coming." "We'll have to do an emergency visual approach," Leah explained calmly. "It's risky as hell, but it's our only shot." As they worked, her expertise was undeniable. She knew the A350 systems better than they did, rattling off emergency procedures and manual overrides from memory. Her composure was inhuman. "Ma'am," Captain Alvarez finally said, his voice filled with a new respect. "What exactly did you fly in the Air Force?" Leah paused. "A few different platforms, mostly advanced tactical. Fighters." "Which ones?" Miller pressed, his curiosity overriding his fear. "The F-22 Raptor and some experimental craft I'm not at liberty to discuss." The two commercial pilots stared at her as if she'd just grown a second head. F-22 pilots were the best of the best, the top 1% of all aviators on Earth. "You flew the Raptor," Alvarez whispered. Leah just nodded. "For 15 years. As they neared the airspace around Las Vegas, Alvarez had an idea. "Let's try the emergency frequency," he said. "Maybe someone is listening." He keyed the mic and sent a blind call into the void. "Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Northern Airlines Flight 447. We are approaching Las Vegas airspace with a total systems failure. We are flying blind and request immediate assistance." For what felt like an eternity, there was only static. Then a voice, sharp and clear, cut through the noise. "Northern 447, this is Nellis Air Force Base Control. We read you 5 by 5. State the nature of your emergency." Alvarez quickly relayed their nightmare scenario. The controller's voice was laced with disbelief. "Northern 447, you are declaring a full systems failure due to a hostile cyber attack? Confirm." "Confirmed," Alvarez replied. "We are on manual controls only." "Copy that, Northern 447. We are scrambling fighters to intercept and provide escort. What is your current position?" Leah took the microphone from his hand. "Nellis Control, this is the navigator aboard Northern 447. We are approximately 60 miles northeast of your position, altitude 15,000 feet, heading 240. "Copy, Northern 447. Fighters are wheels up. ETA for intercept is 6 minutes. 6 minutes later, two menacing gray shapes materialized on their wingtips, F-22 Raptors, flying in a perfect, impossibly tight formation. "Northern 447, this is Raptor Lead," a calm voice crackled over the radio. "We have you on visual. We'll take you home." In the cockpit of the A350, Captain Alvarez stared in awe. "My God, those are Raptors!" Leah was studying the lead fighter. "That pilot's good," she noted. "Rock steady." Over the radio, the Raptor pilot began asking questions. "Northern 447, how are you navigating with no systems online?" Alvarez looked at Leah, who took the mic again. "Raptor Lead, we're on dead reckoning and visual confirmation." There was a pause. "Copy that. Who is your navigator?" "Retired Air Force," Leah replied. Just 2 words. "What's your call sign, navigator?" Leah hesitated. It had been years. It felt like another lifetime. But in this world, in this moment, it was the only name that mattered. "Raptor Lead," she said, her voice clear and steady. "Call sign, Spectre." The radio went dead silent. For a full 30 seconds, there was nothing but the hum of the wind. Then the Raptor pilot's voice came back, and the tone was completely different. It was filled with a mixture of disbelief and pure, unadulterated reverence. "Spectre? Did you say Spectre?" "Confirmed," Leah replied. "Stand by, Northern 447. They could hear the Raptor pilot talking on a different channel, his words urgent and indecipherable. Alvarez and Miller looked at Leah, their faces masks of confusion. "What's Spectre?" Alvarez asked. Leah sighed. "It was my call sign." "But that reaction," Miller started to say, but he was cut off by the radio. "Northern 447, this is General Peterson, commander of the 57th Wing. Ma'am, am I speaking to Colonel Leah Vance? Call sign Spectre?" Leah took a deep breath. The past was catching up with her at 500 miles per hour. Confirmed, General. Retired Colonel Leah Vance. Ma'am, it is a goddamn honor to speak with you. Raptor Lead, did you copy that? Yes, sir, came the excited voice of the pilot. Sir, is that really the Spectre? Confirmed, Raptor Lead. They could hear the pilot talking to his wingman, his voice buzzing with excitement. Dude, it's Spectre. It's the freaking Spectre. Captain Alvarez was lost. What is going on? Why does everyone know that name? Leah looked pained by the attention. It's not important right now. Let's land this plane. But General Peterson was already on the line with the civilian tower. Nellis Tower, be advised, Northern 447 has Colonel Leah Vance, call sign Spectre, on the flight deck providing navigation. There was a stunned silence. Then the controller's voice came back, awestruck. Spectre? As in, the Spectre? The one and only. First Officer Miller couldn't take it anymore. Ma'am, for God's sake, who are you? Leah sighed again. I flew fighters for 30 years. I retired a few years ago. But why are they treating you like you're a living legend? Before Leah could answer, the Raptor pilot was back. Northern 447 Spectre, this is Major Evans. Ma'am, I studied your missions at Top Gun, the Kandahar extraction. It's required reading. Leah closed her eyes. Major, let's just focus on getting this bird on the ground. Yes, ma'am. But, ma'am, it's a profound honor to be your escort. Captain Alvarez seized on the new information. What Kandahar extraction? Over the radio, Major Evans was practically gushing. Nellis Tower, you have to understand who you've got up there. Spectre flew the single most daring rescue mission of the last 50 years. Major Evans, Leah said sternly, that mission is classified. Ma'am, with respect, it was declassified 2 years ago. The whole Air Force knows the story. General Peterson's voice came back on. She's right, Colonel. The Kandahar mission is now required curriculum at the Academy. Captain Alvarez looked at Leah, his eyes wide with wonder. What happened in Kandahar? Leah was silent for a long moment. Finally she spoke, her voice low. A SEAL team was compromised, pinned down deep in hostile territory. The entire area was blanketed with advanced surface-to-air missile systems. A conventional rescue was impossible. A suicide mission. So what did you do? Miller breathed. Major Evans's voice cut in again. She went in alone, at night, in a single-seat experimental stealth fighter, flying below treetop level to stay under their radar. She flew through what we called the Devil's Triangle, rescued 12 operators, and took out 3 SAM sites on her way out. You flew in alone? Alvarez asked, his voice cracking with disbelief. It was the only way, Leah said simply. A single ship has a smaller signature. But how did you even find them in the dark? Training, Leah said, and a little bit of luck. Over the radio, General Peterson added more. Colonel Vance's mission saved 12 American lives and removed a threat that had cost us 6 aircraft. For her actions that night, she was awarded the Air Force Cross. The Air Force Cross, Alvarez whispered. The second highest award for valor in the entire United States military. As they made their approach, more of Leah's history was revealed by the star-struck Raptor pilot. Spectre, Major Evans said, is it true you once took on 4 enemy MiGs by yourself over the Syrian border and won? That's classified, Major. Not anymore, ma'am. They released the gun camera footage last year. Leah sounded genuinely annoyed. They what? Yes, ma'am. You're kind of a big deal on YouTube. Alvarez and Miller just stared at the unassuming woman next to them. You shot down 4 enemy planes? It was a busy afternoon, Leah said dryly. As they lined up for the final approach, Leah took command of the communications. Raptor lead. What are the winds on the ground? Spectre, winds are 270 at 10 knots, gusting to 15. Visibility is clear. Copy. We'll take runway 21 left. Understood, Spectre. We'll stay with you until you're on short final. Leah turned to Alvarez. Straight in approach, runway 21L. It's their longest. The Raptors have cleared it for us. Emergency crews are standing by. She guided them down, her voice a calm, steady presence, calling out altitudes and airspeeds, her eyes seeing the invisible glide slope as if it were painted in the sky. As they descended through 500 feet, Major Evans came on the radio one last time. "Spectre, it has been a true honor flying with you today. Raptor flight is breaking off. Good luck." "Thank you for the escort, Major. You fly a tight formation." "Ma'am, one last question. What's it like being a legend?" Leah was quiet for a beat. "Major, I'm just a pilot who did her job. The real legends are the ones who never came home." "Yes, ma'am. Godspeed, Spectre." The Raptors peeled away in a breathtaking display of aerial grace, and the A350, guided by a woman with nothing but her eyes and her instincts, touched down on the runway as gently as a feather. Fire trucks and ambulances raced alongside them, but they weren't needed. Inside the cabin, as the plane slowed to a stop, the passengers who had been so cruel were frozen in a state of stunned, horrified silence. Mrs. Beaumont, who had sneered at Leah's clothes, now saw the invisible uniform she wore beneath them. Preston Croft, who had accused her of being on charity, understood he had been in the presence of greatness. Dr. Kendrick and Gerald Finch, who had complained about falling standards, realized they had just been saved by the highest standard of excellence imaginable. Jessica, the flight attendant, felt a wave of shame so profound it made her physically sick. As Leah gathered her old duffel bag, several passengers stumbled towards her. "Colonel Vance," Mrs. Beaumont began, her voice trembling, I am so sorry for how I treated you. I had no idea." Leah looked at her, not with anger, but with a tired sadness. "Mrs. Beaumont, the problem is you treated me exactly how you thought a person who looks like me deserves to be treated. That says everything about you and nothing about me." "But you saved us," Preston Croft stammered. "If it wasn't for you—" "I did my duty," Leah said, cutting him off. "But the way you all acted before you knew who I was, that's who you really are." The story of Flight NA447 became an international phenomenon. The audio of the Raptor pilot recognizing her call sign went viral. The passengers who had mocked her were identified and publicly shamed. Preston Croft's firm went into a death spiral as clients fled. Mrs. Beaumont became a social pariah. Dr. Kendrick's patients canceled appointments in droves. Jessica, the flight attendant, was fired. But Leah took no joy in their ruin. Her only comment to the press was, "I hope this serves as a reminder to treat everyone with basic human dignity." 3 months later, a letter arrived at Leah's quiet home in rural Colorado. It was from Jessica. It read, "Dear Colonel Vance, I think about that flight every single day. I judged you, and I was wrong. Your grace under pressure and in the face of our cruelty has changed me forever. I'm going back to school. I want to teach. I want to teach kids that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear old jackets and sit in seat 12A." Leah smiled. She wrote back a simple note. "Jessica, everyone deserves to be treated with respect, not because they might be a hero, but because they are human." Today, Leah Vance is a flight instructor at a small municipal airport. Her students have no idea their quiet, patient teacher is a living legend. They just know her as Ms. Vance, the woman who teaches them that flying isn't just about skill, it's about character. "Remember," she tells them, as they sit in the cockpit of a small Cessna, "how you treat people when no one is watching is who you are. Treat everyone with respect because you never know their story. The person sitting next to you, the one you ignore, the one you judge, they might just be a hero in disguise." Make sure to subscribe to Skybound Stories and check out our other amazing stories by clicking the videos on your screen right now.